The coffee tasted bitter, but I drank it anyway. Corinne had made it specially that morning, unusual for her. "For the flight," she'd said, pressing the travel mug into my hands with that clinical smile. "You hate airplane coffee, Warren." By the time we reached cruising altitude over Georgia, my vision started blurring. My heart hammered against my ribs. Wrong rhythm, wrong pressure, like something squeezing from the inside. I gripped the armrest, trying to steady myself. The flight attendant appeared beside me. Her name tag read, Shauna. The professional smile vanished when she saw my face. "Sir, when did you start feeling sick?" "Just now. I'm fine, just..." She gripped my wrist, checking my pulse. Her face went pale. "How long ago did you drink that coffee?" "Maybe 40 minutes. Why?" "Come with me, now." She pulled me from my seat with surprising force. Derek and Corinne looked up from 3 rows ahead, startled. "Dad?" Derek's voice carried concern I hadn't heard in months. "What's wrong?" "Sir, we need to get you examined immediately." Shauna's hand was firm on my elbow, guiding me toward the galley. My legs felt like water. In the galley, she pulled out a medical kit, checked my pupils with a penlight. Nausea, dizziness, heart palpitations? All of it. She grabbed the intercom. "This is Flight Attendant Shauna Matthews requesting emergency medical landing. Passenger showing signs of cardiac distress." That's when I knew. The special coffee, the insistence I drink it before boarding, the pre-purchased tickets, the $250,000 life insurance policy Corinne had mentioned so casually at dinner 3 nights ago. My son was trying to kill me. The emergency landing in Atlanta saved my life. That's what the doctors said after pumping my stomach and running toxicology screens. Digoxin, a heart medication in therapeutic doses, a killer in the amount they found. "You're lucky that flight attendant recognized the symptoms," Dr. Rodriguez explained, reviewing my chart. "Another hour at altitude, and your heart would have stopped. We're calling the police." I lay in the hospital bed, IV in my arm, trying to process it. Derek, my son, the boy who'd once brought me dandelions and called me his hero, the man who'd looked me in the eye this morning and said, "Ready for Miami, Dad?" My phone buzzed. Text from Derek. "Dad, what happened? Hospital won't tell us anything. We're catching the next flight back." I powered off the phone. The police interview took 2 hours. I told them about the coffee, about Corinne making it, about Derek's sudden interest in family time after 10 months of cold silence. Yes, 10 months they'd been living in my house. 10 months since Derek lost his software engineering job in the tech layoffs. "Do you have any idea why they'd want to harm you?" Detective Morrison asked. "Money?" I said simply. "I have money. They need it." After they left, I stared at the ceiling and let myself remember. Not the Derek who'd tried to poison me, but the Derek from before. 7 years old, gap-toothed, hugging my neck like I was the safest place in the world. 14 years old, furious when I told him about the divorce, screaming that I was abandoning his mother. 43 years old, desperate and drowning, making the calculation that my life was worth less than my bank account. 5 minutes. I allowed myself 5 minutes to grieve the relationship that had died long before the poisoning. Then I wiped my eyes and started planning. I took a taxi home the next day, discharged against medical advice. The house felt different, violated, knowing what had been plotted within these walls. Derek's car wasn't in the driveway. They were probably still in Miami, scrambling to understand why their plan had failed. I went straight to my study. The filing cabinet held decades of documentation, insurance policies, bank statements, legal papers, property deeds. I spread everything across the dining room table, creating a systematic layout, chronological order, categorized by type. Teacher's methodology applied to my own survival. It didn't take long to find the evidence. The life insurance beneficiary form, dated 8 months ago, changing the primary beneficiary from my niece in Atlanta to Derek Thornton. The signature attempted to mimic my handwriting, but failed. The capital W in Warren was wrong, too elaborate. I never made that flourish. Bank statements showing transfers I'd never authorized, $2,800 over 9 months. Careful amounts, $2,800 here, $3,400 there. Small enough to escape casual notice if you weren't looking. A power of attorney document granting Derek financial authority. My forged signature at the bottom. Medical records I'd never seen, documenting cognitive decline I'd never experienced. Dated, signed by doctors I'd never met. They'd been building a paper trail of my incompetence while I taught night classes at the community center, graded papers, lived my normal life. I photographed everything with my phone. Evidence preservation, old teacher habit. But there was something else, something that made this worse. I pulled out my divorce settlement from 5 years ago. $180,000 to Vivian, half our savings. Fair and legal. Derek had been furious then, accused me of abandoning his mother, of choosing my own happiness over family. Had that been the seed, the original wound that festered into this? My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Thornton? This is Shauna Matthews, the flight attendant. I need to tell you something I didn't mention to the police yet. What is it? Before boarding, I was in the bathroom. I heard your daughter-in-law on the phone. She said... Her voice cracked. She said the pills would dissolve quickly. That altitude makes heart attacks more plausible. That emergency response is limited at 30,000 feet. My chest tightened. You recorded this? Video, just audio and ceiling tiles, but her voice is clear. I've been holding on to it because my father died 3 years ago under suspicious circumstances. His nephew convinced him to change his will. Then he fell downstairs. They ruled it accident. I couldn't prove anything. She paused. I can't let that happen again. Send it to me, I said. Everything you have. After we exchanged information, I sat in the darkening study. They hadn't just tried to kill me. They'd been systematically stealing my life for months, my money, my autonomy, my identity, building toward my erasure. 40 years teaching history had taught me one thing. People leave evidence. Always. Time to use it. Marcus Reeves arrived at my house the next morning. Mid-50s, gray threading through dark hair, expensive briefcase that spoke of successful practice, a state law specialist with 20 years' experience. Mr. Thornton, walk me through everything. I slid the first folder across my desk. Forged signatures, altered beneficiaries, fraudulent power of attorney, and this. I played Shauna's recording on my phone. Corinne's voice filled the room. The pills will dissolve quickly in his coffee. Digoxin mimics natural heart failure, especially at altitude. Emergency response at 30,000 feet is limited. 250,000. Derek's committed. Marcus's jaw tightened. This is attempted murder, not just fraud, murder. When did you last personally review these documents? The insurance policy 5 years ago, right after my divorce. You never authorized beneficiary changes? Never. That policy was meant for my niece in Atlanta. She put herself through nursing school. I wanted her to have something. He opened his laptop, began running forensic accounting software on my bank records. Red flags appeared immediately. Unauthorized transfers, signature discrepancies, pattern matching typical fraud indicators. 28,500 over 9 months, he said quietly. Systematic theft, classic embezzlement pattern. He looked up. There's more here. Your daughter-in-law, Corinne Brennan, medical administrator at Silver Palms, correct? Yes. She'd have access to patient records, document templates, physician's signature stamps. He gestured to the medical reports. She created your incompetency history, Made you declining on paper while you were teaching classes twice a week. Someone knocked. Marcus checked his phone. That's my investigator. You'll want to hear what she found. Elena Voss entered. Dark hair and a practical ponytail, leather jacket, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Former detective, Marcus had said, specialized in financial fraud and elder abuse. Mr. Thornton. She shook my hand firmly, then pulled out a tablet. I've been digging into your son's finances for the past 18 hours. It's worse than simple greed. She showed me the screen. Derek owes $45,000 in gambling debts. Online sports betting. Started 2 years ago. Escalated after he lost his job. But that's not the primary motivation. She pulled up medical records. Your grandson, Liam. Age 14. Diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Rare cardiac condition requiring surgical intervention. Cost, $85,000. Insurance denied coverage. Experimental procedure. My hands went numb. Derek never told me. There's more. Elena's expression was grim. Your ex-wife, Vivian Caldwell. She was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's 20 months ago. She's currently in Sunrise Memory Care Facility. Cost, $5,500 monthly. That's $110,000 over 20 months, plus experimental treatments in the first year, another $80,000. Total, $190,000. The divorce settlement was $180,000, I said slowly. Exactly. It's gone. Every dollar spent keeping her alive and trying to slow the progression. Elena pulled up more files. But here's what Derek doesn't know. Corinne's been funding the shortfall. She's embezzled $45,000 from Silver Palms Medical Center over 18 months. Small amounts from patient billing, insurance reimbursements, all funneled to your ex-wife's care facility. The room tilted. Derek hadn't just been desperate for his son. He'd been watching his mother die by inches, burning through money he didn't have, while his 14-year-old needed surgery he couldn't afford. And his father, the man who'd divorced his mother, who'd taken half their savings, sat in a house worth $400,000 with life insurance worth $250,000. In his mind, I said quietly, I owed him, owed Vivian, owed Liam. Doesn't excuse attempted murder, Marcus said, but it explains the escalation. Elena set down her tablet. I also tracked the digoxin source. Man named Vincent Shaw, disbarred pharmacist, 3 priors for prescription fraud. Your son paid him $10,000 for the solution and dosing instructions. Shaw kept records, emails, bank transfers, meeting locations. He'll flip with the right pressure. Can we prove all of this in court? I asked. With what we have? Marcus smiled grimly. Yes. But Warren, this changes jury perception significantly. Sympathetic grandson needing surgery, ex-wife with Alzheimer's, desperate father. I know. I stood, walked to the window. Outside, the garden I'd maintained for 30 years stretched in neat rows, a life built carefully, piece by piece. But he still tried to kill me. He researched methods, purchased poison, calculated the timing. That's not impulsive desperation. That's premeditated murder. Agreed. So what do you want to do? I turned back. I want them to confess. On record. Not just Shauna's recording. I want Derek to admit what he did and why. I want it documented so thoroughly that no jury, no matter how sympathetic, can ignore it. Elena raised an eyebrow. You want to wear a wire, confront them directly. Yes. That's dangerous, Marcus warned. If they realize you're recording, they won't. I've been playing the confused old man for months, haven't I? They think I'm declining. They'll think this is just another family dinner. I met his eyes. I need this confession. It's the only way to ensure real consequences. Marcus and Elena exchanged glances. Finally, he nodded. All right, but we do this carefully. Elena wires you. I monitor from outside. Police on standby. First sign of physical threat, we shut it down. Agreed. Elena pulled equipment from her bag. I'll need you shirtless. The transmitter goes on your chest, under your clothes. It's small. They won't see it. As she worked, Marcus made calls, arranging police presence, coordinating timing, establishing emergency protocols, professional machinery clicking into place. The wire felt cold against my skin, taped down with medical adhesive. Elena disguised the transmitter as a pen in my shirt pocket. "Test," she said into her own receiver. My voice came through clearly on her tablet. "Can you hear me?" "Perfect." She handed me a wristband. "Panic button. Press twice fast. We come in immediately. Don't be a hero, Warren." I strapped it on. I taught high school for 40 years. I'm used to dealing with people who want to hurt me. Those were teenagers. These are adults who've already tried to kill you once. "Then they've used their free shot," I said. "Now it's my turn." Derek's car pulled into the driveway at 6:30. I watched from the kitchen window, hands steady as I stirred the pot roast. Comfort food. Last supper. They entered quietly. Derek looked thinner, worn. Corinne's clinical mask was firmly in place, but I caught the wariness in her eyes. "Dad?" Derek's voice cracked slightly. "You're home. The hospital said..." False alarm. I kept my tone light, confused. "Something I ate, maybe. They ran tests, kept me overnight for observation. I'm fine now." "You scared us," Corinne said, but her relief seemed forced. "When you collapsed on the plane..." "Collapsed?" I blinked, playing the part. I don't remember collapsing. Just felt dizzy. Too much excitement, probably. I'm not used to traveling anymore. They exchanged glances. The kind of look that said, maybe the cognitive decline is real. "Well, you're home now," Derek said. "That's what matters. Dinner's ready. Pot roast, the way I used to make when you were young." I served food with deliberate calm, aware of the wire under my shirt transmitting every word to Marcus and Elena in the van 3 houses down. "Sit, both of you. We need to talk." Corinne's shoulders tensed. "About what?" "About family. About honesty." I set down my fork, looked at Derek directly. "I know about Liam's surgery." He froze, fork halfway to his mouth. "I know about the cost. $85,000. I know insurance denied it. I know you have 5 weeks to come up with the money." "How did you..." Derek started. "It doesn't matter how. What matters is this. You could have asked me for help." "Dad, I'm not done." I kept my voice gentle but firm. "I also know about your mother, about her Alzheimer's, about the experimental treatments, the private facility, about the money running out." Derek's face went pale. Corinne's mask slipped, just for a second, but I saw the calculation behind her eyes. "You could have asked me for help," I repeated. "For Liam, for Vivian, for all of it. I would have helped. Would you?" Derek's voice cracked with sudden emotion. "Would you really? After what you did to Mom? After you took half our money and left her with nothing? I gave her $180,000, Derek. That's not nothing." "It's gone!" He slammed his hand on the table. "All of it. Every fucking dollar spent in 20 months keeping her alive while she forgets my name. And where were you? Living in your nice house, comfortable, while Mom forgot she ever had a son and Liam needed surgery we couldn't afford." The pain in his voice was real, raw. This was the wound beneath everything, not just financial desperation, but years of accumulated grief and anger. "I didn't know she was sick," I said quietly. "You never told me. Because you didn't deserve to know. You left her, left us, chose yourself. I divorced her, Derek. I didn't abandon you. There's a difference. Not to me." Tears streaked his face. "Not when I watched her deteriorate. Not when Liam collapsed at school and the doctors said he needed surgery we couldn't afford. Not when the gambling debts crushed me because I was trying to win enough to save them both." Corinne put a hand on his arm. "Derek, stop." "No." He shook her off. "He needs to hear this. You want to know why we did it? Why we planned?" He stopped, awareness dawning. "Wait." What do you know? I met his eyes. Everything. The digoxin, Vincent Shaw, the plan to poison me on the plane, the forged documents, the stolen money, all of it. The silence was absolute. Derek's face cycled through shock, denial, fear. Corinne had gone perfectly still, her clinical mind calculating escape routes. I don't know what you're talking about, Derek said finally, but his voice was hollow. Don't lie to me. Not now. You've done enough damage. At least give me the truth. The truth? Derek laughed, a broken sound. Fine. Yes. We planned to kill you. We researched it, purchased the means, put the digoxin in your coffee that morning. And you know what? I don't feel guilty about it. Corin stood abruptly. Derek, shut up. Why? He looked at her, then back at me. He already knows. You had everything we needed, Dad. Everything Liam needs. Everything Mom needs. And you just sat here like some king on a throne while we drowned. So you chose murder. I chose my son over you. Derek's voice rose. Every father makes that choice. Liam is 14 years old and dying. Mom doesn't remember she has a son. I lost my job, our insurance, everything. And you had the solution. You just wouldn't give it. Because you didn't ask. I couldn't. The words came out as a roar. Don't you understand? After everything, after the divorce, after watching Mom break down, I couldn't come to you begging. I couldn't give you that satisfaction. So you chose to kill me instead. The words hung in the air. Derek slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him. Corinne remained standing, rigid with barely contained fury. This conversation is over, she said coldly. Derek, we're leaving. No. I pulled out my phone, showed them the recording app that had been running since they arrived. You're not. Every word recorded, dated, time-stamped, plus security cameras throughout the house, financial records, medical consultant testimony, flight attendant recording from the airport. I have everything. Derek's face crumbled. Dad, please. There's more. I pressed the panic button on my wrist twice. Police are outside, waiting for my signal. Corinne's clinical facade finally shattered. You manipulative bastard. You let us confess knowing I needed the truth on record, yes? I looked at Derek. I gave you the chance to be honest, to ask for help. You chose this instead. The front door opened. Marcus entered first, followed by Elena and 2 uniformed officers. Mr. Thornton? One officer spoke. We're ready to proceed. Derek stood, came around the table, dropped to his knees in front of me. Actually dropped to his knees. Please, Dad. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. We'll pay back the money, move out, sign whatever you want. Just don't prosecute. Liam needs me. Mom needs me. I can't go to prison. I looked down at my son, broken and begging, felt something crack in my chest. You should have thought of that before planning my murder. I know, I was desperate. Corinne was in my ear, and I couldn't watch Liam die. Desperation doesn't excuse this, Derek. The officers moved forward with handcuffs. The plea hearing took place 6 weeks later. Judge Rodriguez reviewed the evidence with a grim expression, the recordings, the financial records, the forged documents, Vincent Shaw's testimony about selling poison to desperate buyers. This is one of the more calculated elder abuse cases I've encountered, she said from the bench. The victims of such crimes typically don't survive to see justice. Mr. Thornton is fortunate and, apparently, remarkably perceptive. Derek and Corin stood before her, their expensive attorney beside them. Where had Derek found money for lawyers like this? More debt, probably, digging deeper holes. Their settlement offer had come 3 days after the arrest. Return the $28,000, vacate the property, relinquish all inheritance claims. In exchange, I'd drop criminal charges. Marcus had brought the offer to my house. I'd torn it in half, then quarters, then smaller pieces. They tried to murder me, Marcus. Not steal from me, Murder me. They researched undetectable poisons while living in my house, eating my food, pretending concern. Now, standing before the judge, I prepared to make my own offer. Your Honor, I said when called to speak, my son and daughter-in-law conspired to murder me for financial gain. The evidence is overwhelming. They deserve to face full consequences. Derek's head dropped. However, I paused. My grandson is 14 years old and needs life-saving surgery. My ex-wife has Alzheimer's and requires ongoing care. These innocent people will suffer if I pursue maximum prosecution. I turned to face Derek and Corinne. Here's what I want. They plead guilty to conspiracy to commit fraud, financial elder abuse, and forgery. They receive suspended sentences, 5 years probation with strict conditions. They repay every dollar stolen, plus $50,000 in damages. They surrender all claims to my estate, now and forever. They accept permanent restraining orders. Marcus stood. Additionally, Your Honor, Derek Thornton will complete 500 hours of community service at Riverside Nursing Home, working with elderly patients. Both defendants will attend mandatory counseling, individual and family therapy. They will maintain full-time employment and submit to monthly financial audits. Corinne Brennan will surrender her medical license permanently and never work in healthcare again in any capacity. Judge Rodriguez studied the proposal. Mr. Thornton, this is remarkably lenient given the severity of the crime. Justice doesn't always mean prison, Your Honor. Sometimes it means forcing people to understand what they did. Derek will spend 500 hours caring for the elderly people he saw as obstacles. Corinne will lose the career she used to facilitate this crime. They'll live with the consequences every day for 5 years. And if they violate probation? Immediate incarceration. No second chances. The judge looked at Derek and Corinne. Do you accept these terms? Derek's attorney whispered urgently in his ear. Finally, Derek nodded. Yes, Your Honor, I accept. Ms. Brennan? Corinne stared at me with undisguised hatred, but self-preservation won. I accept. Very well. Judge Rodriguez made notes. However, I'm adding one condition. Mr. Derek Thornton, your custody of your minor son Liam is hereby suspended during the probation period. The child will be placed with his maternal aunt. You will be permitted supervised visitation twice monthly for the first 2 years. After that, unsupervised visits may be granted if your therapist approves and you've demonstrated rehabilitation. Derek collapsed in his chair. That consequence, losing his son after trying so desperately to save him, broke him in a way my testimony hadn't. Court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, Marcus pulled me aside. That was strategic. You gave them mercy, but you made sure the punishment fit the crime. I gave them consequences that will last. Prison. Would have been easier for them. Just time to serve. This way, they have to face what they did every single day. What about Liam's surgery? Vivian's care? I'd already made the arrangements. I've established a trust for Liam's medical expenses and ongoing care. $85,000 for the surgery, plus a fund for follow-up treatments. Separately, I've paid Sunrise Memory Care in full for Vivian's remaining care, however long that takes. You're paying for the people who tried to kill you? I'm paying for innocent people who got caught in this mess. Liam and Vivian didn't choose this. They don't deserve to suffer because of Derek's choices. Marcus nodded slowly. And Derek and Corinne? They get nothing from me. Ever again. I looked back at the courthouse. After today, Derek's not my son anymore. He made that choice when he decided my life was worth less than my bank account. That evening, I sat alone in my house, truly alone for the first time in 10 months. Derek and Corinne had moved out weeks ago, taking only their personal belongings. The rooms they'd occupied felt larger, emptier. I walked through Derek's old bedroom, now just a guest room with no guests. Found a photograph in the closet. Derek at 7, gap-toothed and grinning, hugging my neck. The boy who'd once called me his hero. I allowed myself one moment of grief. Then I put the photograph in my desk drawer, closed it firmly, and walked away. Some relationships don't survive betrayal. Some wounds are too fundamental to heal. I'd raised Derek to understand that actions have consequences, that history judges people by what they do, not what they intend. He'd chosen to ignore those lessons. Now he'd spend 5 years learning them again. I poured myself a drink, bourbon, neat, and sat in my study. The evidence wall was gone now, all documentation filed away in a box labeled Derek, case closed. The conspiracy existed, justice was delivered, but I wouldn't live surrounded by reminders of betrayal. Tomorrow, I'd return to teaching at the community center. Next week, I'd start volunteering at Orange County Regional High School, twice weekly, American history. I'd submitted my application the day after the arrest. The principal had accepted enthusiastically. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Mr. Thornton, this is Liam, Derek's son, your grandson. The surgery is scheduled for next week. I wanted to say thank you for everything. Can we talk sometime? I stared at the message for a long moment. My grandson, reaching out on his own, breaking the wall Derek had built between us. I typed back, yes. After you've recovered from surgery, let's have coffee. I'd like to get to know you. His response came immediately. I'd like that too, Grandpa. I sat back, surprised by the tightness in my chest. Not grief this time, something else. Hope, maybe. Or just the recognition that life continues, that legacy builds through those who deserve it. Derek had tried to end my life, for money. Instead, he'd given me the chance to know my grandson. Irony, I supposed. Or justice. 5 years later, I stood in front of a classroom at Orange County Regional High School, teaching my twice-weekly course on American history. The students, 23 teenagers ranging from engaged to actively sleeping in the back row, were working through a discussion on Reconstruction. Justice, I began, is not the same as fairness, and it's certainly not the same as mercy. Today we're going to talk about the difference. I walked them through the complexities, the justice of legal rights versus the fairness of actual equality, the mercy of leniency versus the necessity of consequences. The students engaged more than expected, asking sharp questions, challenging my assertions. Near the end of class, a girl in the front row raised her hand. Mr. Thornton, this is kind of personal, but do you ever regret choosing justice over mercy, like in your own life? The classroom went quiet. They'd heard rumors, probably. Small community, big scandal, elderly teacher, son who tried to kill him. The story had made local news 5 years ago. I considered the question carefully. Yes and no. I regret that circumstances required me to make that choice. I regret that my son chose a path that left me no alternative. But I don't regret choosing truth over false peace. Sometimes the cost of mercy is enabling further harm. Sometimes justice is the more loving choice, for everyone involved. Even if it hurts, especially if it hurts, pain means something real happened, something that mattered. The alternative is pretending everything's fine while it rots from within. The bell rang. Students gathered their things, filed out. I was packing up my briefcase when my phone buzzed. Text from Liam. Grandpa, graduation's this Saturday. Johns Hopkins. I know it's far, but would you come? It would mean a lot. I smiled, typed back, wouldn't miss it, proud of you. Over the past 5 years, Liam had become the grandson I'd never known I wanted. Coffee meetings turned into regular dinners. His recovery from surgery had been complete. No complications, full cardiac function restored. He'd thrown himself into his studies with the intensity of someone who'd glimpsed mortality and decided to make every moment count. Pre-med track, 4.0 GPA, full scholarship to Johns Hopkins. Derek had done that, in a twisted way, given his son the gift of second chances by nearly taking mine away. Saturday arrived with clear skies. I drove to Baltimore, 5 hours through familiar highways, and arrived at Johns Hopkins graduation ceremony an hour early. Found my seat in the front section, reserved for family. As the auditorium filled, I spotted him, Derek, entering through the back doors, moving carefully like someone afraid of breaking invisible rules. He wore his Riverside nursing home supervisor badge. 5 years of community service had turned into a career. Gray threaded through his hair now more than mine. He looked older, worn down by the weight of his choices. He saw me. Our eyes met across the crowded auditorium. He chose the farthest seat possible in the back row, respecting boundaries, even now. I nodded once, acknowledgement, not invitation. He nodded back. The ceremony began. When they called Liam's name, we both stood. My grandson crossed the stage in his cap and gown, diploma in hand, the future stretching before him like an open road. The surgery scar on his chest was invisible beneath his robes, but I knew it was there, a reminder of how close we'd come to losing him. After the ceremony, Liam found me first, wrapped me in a hug that lifted me slightly off my feet. Thank you, Grandpa, for everything, the surgery fund, the college support, just everything. You earned it. I just made it possible. He hesitated. Dad's here. I know. He wanted to come, asked permission through his therapist. I said yes. Liam searched my face. Is that okay? It's your graduation, Liam. You invite who you want. He wants to say something to you. Could you talk to him? Just for a minute? I looked across the crowd. Derek stood alone, gray-haired and worn, hands shoved deep in his pockets. 500 hours of caring for elderly patients had changed him, I'd heard through Marcus. He'd seen himself in every frightened family member, every desperate son making calculations about money and dignity. The work had broken something in him, or maybe rebuilt it differently. 1 minute, I said. Liam led me through the crowd. Derek straightened as we approached, his hands trembling slightly. Dad. His voice cracked on the word. Thank you for coming, for being here, for Liam. I studied him, the son who'd tried to kill me, the father who'd loved his own son desperately enough to commit murder, the broken man who'd spent 5 years trying to become someone better. How's your mother? I asked. She passed away 6 months ago, peacefully in her sleep. The facility called me. He paused. She asked for you in her last days. Thought you were still married, wanted to know where you were. Something tightened in my chest. Vivian, the woman I'd loved once, divorced fairly, left to fight Alzheimer's alone because I hadn't known. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. I should have told you she was sick, should have asked for help instead of... He stopped. I've spent 5 years thinking about what I did. Every day at Riverside, caring for people I once saw as obstacles, understanding what I almost took from you. And I can't undo it. Can't apologize enough. Can't make it right. His voice was steady now, resigned. I just wanted to say thank you. For saving Liam. For giving him the future I tried to steal from you. For being the grandfather I failed to be as a son. We stood in silence, father and son, or what was left of those titles. 5 years between us. 5 years of consequences and rebuilding and learning to live with choices made. Congratulations on your grandson, Derek said finally. You raised him better than I did. You both raised him. He's got your determination, your love of family. He just learned different lessons about how to express it. Derek's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve your generosity. No, you don't. But Liam does, and this is for him, not you. I turned to leave, then paused. Derek, The work you're doing at Riverside, keep doing it. Not because the court ordered it, because it matters, because maybe if you help enough people, you'll start to forgive yourself. I can't do that for you. No one can. But you can earn it, piece by piece. Something flickered in his eyes. Not hope, exactly, but possibility. Thank you, Dad. I walked away, didn't look back. Found Liam waiting with a group of his friends, laughing and taking photos. The future unfolding as it should. That evening, alone in my hotel room, I sat by the window and watched Baltimore's lights flicker on as darkness fell. 5 years ago, I'd made the hardest choice of my life, prosecuting my own son, choosing justice over family unity. Tonight, watching my grandson celebrate his achievements, I understood something I hadn't before. Justice isn't happiness, it's just truth. And truth, lived with integrity, creates space for new growth. Liam thriving, Derek rebuilding. Me teaching students who actually valued what I offered. Some doors stay closed, some wounds don't heal. Derek and I would never be father and son again, not the way we'd been before. But that was okay. I'd protected my dignity, my autonomy, my life. I'd held someone accountable while still caring for the innocent. I'd chosen truth over comfortable lies. And tonight, 5 years later, my grandson had graduated from one of the best medical schools in the country. That was justice enough. I closed the curtains, turned off the lights, and slept peacefully for the first time in years.